Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome
Good
to
evening.
today's session. This is the 8th session since we started. And today's topic is interventional study designs. And the course facilitator will be Dr. Walter. As most of you now knows him, he has been with us for several sessions. So without wasting any further time, I would like to welcome Dr. Walter to directly start the session. And during the session, you can type in your questions in the chat box, and I will read the questions in the end. Or you can wait, and in the end, we will allow people to ask questions, to comment, or any other business. We will allow them after the end of the presentation. So, Dr. Walter, welcome for today's session.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I would like also to greet you all who have joined us in this session. Hope that we are all fine. So you are warmly welcome. So our session is a continuation of the topics that we have done, and mainly within the package of methodology in research. And then just to remind it, here we are sharing the basics of research for we beginners and at some point researchers who are in the middle level. But also there are some ideas that even gurus in research can grasp as new concepts or ideas, because research is changing now and then. So we had previous session was all about the study designs, where we classified them into two. We had the observational study designs, and where the second package, which was in the intervention designs. So we did the package of observational studies, and then this is just a continuation of the rest package, which is interventional study designs. So it will be the main focus of our session today. And then our hope is maybe by the end of this session, each of us have at least an understanding of what do we mean when we say interventional studies, and at least to be able to identify and analyze them. But by the end also, we need to be able to apply knowledge and skills on the concept of interventional studies. Yeah, so as the researchers previously we say that we are guided by philosophical assumptions, that we said no research which is conducted without a researcher being in a position of having the philosophical issue, the belief that I'm going to study this aspect of this discipline, this problem, because I believe that people over there have no any guidance on that one. That's why they demonstrate such behaviors. So this is a philosophy that you believe something is happening because there is a discrepancy somewhere, be it in a practical life or a hypothetical life. See, and from there is where now you can even predict the direction. Are you going to observe? Is where we said you should not manipulate the participant or independent variable. But also, if your philosophical idea is directing you to go then and manipulate the participant or the independent variable, is where now you are in the arm of interventional studies. So interventional studies from the philosophical point of view mean that you need to manipulate the independent variable or input factor and the participants who are involved in that study. So if you are in that position, it means that you will be able to know where are you heading in your research. So we did the observational study, and today we are in the arm of interventional studies. Yes, so we said that observational studies, just a recap of what we did in the last session. We have descriptive and analytical, of which we covered all of them. And then now we are in the second class, which is experimental studies, of which we have quasi experimental and we have randomized controlled trials. And then we said these here are arranged chronologically from simple to complex. When you move from the observational studies, mean that you are somehow not in a position to convince people that you are having valid studies or valid findings, though they are also acceptable because you are informed by research. We have tools that guides you to measure your study design or your study research. In the observation studies, we have several tools that before even you go to data collection, you need to sit down and take those tools, make sure that you have adhered to them because they provide some guidance and guideline. If we want to do a cross-section study, the tool guides you, make sure that you have this one, you have this one, you have this one for cross-section studies, for case control, ecological, case series, case studies, or cohort. So I've provided some of the measurement tools for observational studies. We have, which is commonly used is a Strobe. If we are doing observational study, you can visit Strobe document or statement, which provides some guides for you if we want to write for section study. Which issues should you consider? So we have several of them. We have study, we have square, but we have tools that guides you in preparing your proposal, be it cross-section or case control, case series in observational packaging. And then we have tools, specific tools, which are globally agreed, approved. These are global, and they are universal. You can use regardless of the country that you are, regardless of the organization, because we have internal guidelines and we have these international guidelines. So you can deal with the internal, which is available within your training institution, but also you should also consider those tools which are available in the global. So for the interventional study, because it's our target today, I mean that if we are doing a course or randomized controlled trial, I mean that you need to find some forms which provides guidance, criterias, and maybe components that you need to consider when you are structuring your research proposal, particularly based on the study design. So we have consult and we have spirit with a website link of which they are publicly available. You can access them and print maybe or have them as soft copy so that you have on table and then start passing through one component to the other, one step to the other, and then examine now or measure your proposal that we have written. If we are adhered to the components that are agreed or approved globally, or you are only in the institutional. So what is recommended is to combine. You have the institution, but also you need to visit those which are global available or recommended. Yes, so for instance, we have normally in our session, we need to have some brain teaser. Yeah, we have some brain teaser. Here are two questions. And then this, if you are able to answer this one or to address them, I mean that you will be in a position to know that I have chosen course experimental study, not by accident or not by being informed by colleagues or not by because other researchers have done a course experiment in this format, but because you are really informed where should we use course and where should you use randomized controlled trial. The same. So, for instance, someone is studying whether online invitation, your wedding ceremony, may accelerate financial contribution among the invitees. So you are asked if you could be given an opportunity to say which study design between quasi and the randomized controlled trial could you use in the first study? And then the second study is studying how pediatric nutrition education intervention using a cartoon-based leaflet can influence dietary diversity knowledge in the practice to caregivers. The same, you are asked if you are given an opportunity to plug study design, interventional study design to this second study, which design could you plug it? See? So after we finish the session, I think you'll be in a position to answer and to address these questions. And then if you are able, mean that you have now understood interventional studies and the difference between interventional study designs. So we spare this one for you in your ample time to address them and try to answer them based on the knowledge that we are going to get throughout this session. Yes, so the concept of interventional studies, yeah, this is a roadmap, yeah, roadmap or blueprint of methodological activities or procedural activities that you as a researcher, me as a researcher, we want to find out the target object, be it object as an input factor, may demonstrate a comparative effect between two or more groups. Yeah, so it's a roadmap that tells you that because you have opted the arm of manipulating the input factor or independent variable, mean that you need to manipulate it and then see if you manipulate, does it bring any outcome of interest or not. But also in the second arm, the study population, because our aim is also to manipulate the study population, means that you need to be in a position to provide a roadmap. I'm going to pass this one, and then next to this one, and then this is how I'm going to deal with the participants, how I'm going to manipulate them to see if they change behavior, they change cognition, they change attitude, whichever. So it's a kind of a procedural activity that you prescribe in the methodology chapter for people to see that okay, this study is going to be conducted in this manner, on this approach, on this way. You see? Based on the nature or scope, mean that be it an intervention study, you need to be in one of these three aspects. You can have interventional study in the developmental aspect. You develop something, and then you go there and test, see the outcome. See, and then there are some interventional studies in the implementation part. That if we are dealing with the developmental part, mean that the input factor that you are going to manipulate to bring some intended outcome, mean that it is not existing. So you found in your area, maybe you are in Tanzania, you found it and then you see there is nothing of that package, training package. And then you see in Kenya, they have it. But why in Tanzania? So you want to adopt it and then try in Tanzanian setting. Will it work? And how will it work? Will it be acceptable? How will it be acceptable? So developmental interventional studies mean that there is nothing of the package, nothing of the drug. Now we want to develop or to make a drug. Now here you start the development. Some intervention are more for implementation aspect. Here we mean that we have the package, yeah, but since it has been approved by the higher authorities, it has never been implemented in our settings, but it is there within our settings or our country. So it's where now you want to manipulate it, you want to initiate the initiatives, but we have this one. Why is it not implemented? So I want to try to see are there challenges, are there issues that hinder this one to be implemented. So you have already an object, and then you want to initiate implementation. And then the others are evaluation. Yeah. So you have a material or a drug that has been developed. And then also it has been administered to people several times or always, but it has never been evaluated of its effect, whether it's positive or negative. And then since its implementation, maybe it was last initiated in 20, 20. And then from there, no evaluatory information of that package. And then you want to bring out the effect or the outcome that which is implemented, whether it is of beneficial or not. It's now you engage yourself in evaluatory intervention studies. You see, so you can be in one arm. Some can be developmental implementation only, and then some can be developmental implementation and evaluation. They take both, all of them. Yeah, so there are some studies that engage in all of the aspects, and then some in one or two of them. So this is according to the nature of the intervention or scope of the intervention. And then intervention based on the concept, it means that you need to test something. See? So you need to establish a hypothesis. Some of the intervention you can still uh, deal with the research questions, but it's something which is tested. It means that you need to establish prior assumptions of the test or the implementation, the intervention, the treatment. See? So you can have null hypothesis, or you can have alternative hypothesis. So you need to make prior assumption that this package, this drug is going to be effective or is not going to be effective between groups over time. See? And then the key issue in interventional study is time. Yeah. No interventions that is limited to the time. If you see that you are limited to the time, mean that you need not to opt interventional studies. Just to go to opt a single point of time and go back, manage your data, analyze and interpret them so that people knows what is happening there. But if you have time, mean that you are allowed to opt interventional studies because they need to be implemented and evaluated between groups and over time. So this is a very key issue to be considered when you opt interventional study designs. See? Yeah, and then the other component of interventional study, to conceptualize it, you need to have groups. See? And then here you need to, sometimes you may have only one group, but the interventional studies that are very strong are those which need to have two or more groups. Yeah, because it's where it is believed that you need to demonstrate a comparative statistical analysis and the effect to establish the effect of the intervention or the outcome of interest between groups over time. You see? Yeah, so you can have a group and you need to have a group, be it one or single group or two or more groups. So the one or two groups may be labeled as interventional group because you can have one group interventional group, but two or more interventional group versus against one control group. You see? And then you are recommended to be very keen when you define a control group. And then the issue to consider here is which type of a control group do you need to have in your intervention study. This is a very, very recommended aspect. You need to be able to be in a position to define, if you have a control group, position yourself to know which type of a control group do you have. See? And then if we visit some books, research books, literature, but also reports, especially UNICEF and WHO, they have prescribed some of the types of control groups in interventional studies. You should not try to go there blindly without knowing which type of a control group do you have in or do you plan to have in your study. So we have types, we have placebo or dummy. It's also called dummy control group. We have a control group which is no treatment group. It's given nothing, and this is a type of control group that most of academic researchers, students who are doing academic research, prefers no treatment control group. So they are identified as a control group but they are left untreated. They are left without being provided anything. You see? And then we have dose response control group, of which yes, you can label it as a control group based on are they responding to the dose that you are giving? If they are not responding, means that you need to qualify them as control group. So a dose, as you increase the dose, is where you determine this will be a control group. See, and then we have active. Active is you treat the way you treat an interventional group. Also, the control group is treated with something. So you can have a drug. Maybe you are testing paracetamol. Yeah, in the intervention group, and then even these who are in the control, they are given maybe diclofenac. You see, so they are also active. They are given intervention, but they are control. You see, but which differentiates them is the input factor, which is manipulated, independent variable. You see. Yeah, and then we have external multiple groups. Yeah, so this is a kind of control groups that are not part of your research scope. So you can have your intervention, and then you take other control groups which are historical, and then you say they once treated with this kind of treatment, and I want to compare those historical with mining. See, so this is external, which is not within your scope of the research. Yeah, and then the other concept which is very important to conceptualize when you talk of interventional studies is characters. See, the characteristics of it. So any interventional studies has three components, and there are some interventional designs that lack one. We will see it. So interventional studies need to have randomization, we have manipulation, and we have control. So these three components are the ones that defines interventional studies. So if an interventional study design lacks one among these three, it's called the force intervention study design. See, not true intervention. The one which is believed to be true intervention is the one that accommodates all of the components, the three characteristics: randomization, treatment, and control group. See, yeah. So this is among the components that is very compulsory when you define the concept of interventional study designs. Yes, so we have also blinding. In interventional studies, we need to have blinding. Yeah, and the blinding, we have types. We have open blinding, which is none, no one among the three characters. We have maybe data collector, researcher, data analyst, and then participants. They are all not blinded, which this is called open blinding. See, they all know that what is here, what is going to happen, each and everything they are told, and they are aware of. And then we have a single blinding, and this is only maybe you blind the participants, and the rest of the team, research team, are aware of what is going on. But we have double. For instance, we have research assistants. You blind them, you bracket them, and then the participants also. But also we have triple blinding. See, it's where even yourself as a researcher, you are bracketed also. You should know you should not know even your package. You see, yeah. So this is one among the issue to conceptualize interventional study. So by the end, we have types. We have quasi, as we said, and we have randomized controlled trial. And then in quasi, basically, it's known as force because it lacks always randomization of the study participants or objects. Yeah, you can randomize study setting whichever, but if you come to the level of study participants or objects, it's where now you lack randomization. And then if you employ randomization at the level of study participant or objects, your readers are going to question the work, your work. They are going to give less weight. That how comes Quas is given randomization to the level of study participant. So you can randomize study setting. You can randomize maybe regions, whichever. But if you reach to the level of study participants, it's where now you opt the other way around. See, you can employ purposive, whichever, but quasi-experimental lacks randomization of the study participants or study objects. See? The one which is full with the three components is randomized controlled trial or clinical trials. Others, they call them as in clinical trials when you are talking of the medical field. Yeah, because it has all characters. So this is the concept of randomized interventional studies. So in QAS, yeah, as we said, QAS, if you start conceptualizing the QAS and at least extracting, maybe fishing more understanding of the QAS experimental, this is characterized by the pre-post. Yeah, you need to have a pre-post. It's where now you compare groups, if we have groups, control and intervention, before and after an intervention. So you measure them, the status, their basic status, the original status before you initiate the intervention. And then you initiate the intervention. Later on, you reassess them to see that if they are gaining or not. See? And then here, you consider and put all variables at constant for you to discriminate the exact effect of the intervention. See? Pre-post. And then, yes, it involves manipulation because you need to manipulate people. So if we are testing drug, it means that people will be administered the drug. If we are testing the education package, the education material, training material, means that people are going to be trained. So the process of training people means that you are manipulating them. See? Yes. And then all of this aims at bringing out the causal effect, that the package effect on this outcome, produce this outcome of interest. So that is the target, the interest of the intervention. Yeah, and then in use, where should we use quasi experimental? If you see that your study design is not ethically bound, mean that you are in a position to use quasi experiment. Mean that if you have an input factor, which if you administer it to the interventional group or participants in the intervention arm, it may not favor them and leave those in the control without benefiting from the independent variable. So if there is no any beneficial effect of the input factor, the training package or the drug that you give intervention group, they are healed. But the control, they are not given and they are not healed. This is ethical issue. And then if it happens like this one, mean that you need not to use quasi experiment. You need to opt a randomized control trial. And then sometimes you can opt a training package. You see, I am going to train. Mean that training will favor the intervention group to gain something after being trained or after being exposed to the package. But those in the control, they are left without being treated equally with them to gain something. Mean that there are ethical issues that you need to answer, you need to address, you need to respond to them. And then this is an ethical, mean that quasi has no place in that. See? So if you have a study which is ethically, when you talk of the input factor, you will benefit in the intervention than in the control. This is unethical. I say you need to ask yourself twice. Should I continue the course or should I change it into randomized controlled trial? See? Yeah. So randomization of the study participants is not required. If you see that there is no need of randomized study participants for you to establish a random effect of the intervention, you can opt a quasi experiment. Otherwise, randomized controlled trial. See? So we have types of quasi. We have one group independent quasi experimental. This is without a control group. And then this one is also having subgroups or subtypes. So you're going to have one independent group, a quasi-experimental study, one group without a control. Yeah, so we have subtypes also. We have quasi-experimental, one group, post-test only. And then this one is applicable once you know that it's those studies that you don't administer baseline assessment or pre-test. You only administer post-test because those that are going to be recruited in your study have been exposed to the basic. You know that there is basic interventions are going on, or there is a drug which is being administered to such group. So you just only want to compare the basic versus your new proposed innovation. It's where now you can conduct post-test only, one independent group quasi-experiment. See, and then also we have pre-post test. It's where now nothing is known about whether those participants of interest have been exposed to that particular object or package or drug, and then you want to start afresh that nothing is known about whether something is implemented in this manner or in this nature. So I want to bring in this new. So before I implement, I want to know if it is known, because we assume that people are not empty at all. They might sometimes know what you intend to implement, but not in a formal way. They've heard something in the media, sharing information with the peer or whichever. So you can pre-test and then administer the package intervention and then post-test. You see? Yes. So we have also again non-equivalent post-test only, and then non-equivalent pre-post. And then we have interrupted time series quasi-experimental. But these all are subtypes of one or in the uncontrolled quasi-experimental study design. So if we are opting a quasi-experimental study, you need to know that we have uncontrolled quasi-experimental with subtypes, and we have controlled quasi-experimental, which is having a control group. And then among these two, the one which is having a weight is the quasi-experimental that uses two groups, an interventional group and a control group, than when you are doing only in one group, see? Because the issue is to bring out the comparative effect of the intervention between the groups over time, see? So the second type of quasi is having that characteristics. Yeah. Yeah, so you can study quasi-experimental as an observational, but also longitudinal. When you say observation, it's like once you administer the intervention, post-testing, you are going. But some other quasi, they add some time series of following. So they integrate some sort of cohort. So after an intervention, immediate post-test, and then you add some interval, maybe 1 month later, for the aim of measuring the retention capacity of the participant on the outcome of interest. So if you are educational intervention, you train them, you assess immediately, because maybe the variable is knowledge. You assess them immediately after an intervention, be it 1 week or within a week after an intervention, and then the intervention is finished. So no need of following them when will the intervention effect end. So if we want to see when are they going back to the basic baseline knowledge, level of knowledge, means that you need to establish the follow-up. See, so 1 month later, 3 months later, 6 months, till the point that you see the knowledge level is coming back to the baseline that you found them at the baseline, having the same level of knowledge. See, so that you can say the effect of the intervention over time on knowledge, mean that if you educate someone here, he or she can retain the knowledge for at least 6 months after ending up the intervention. See? Yeah, so this is longitudinal quasi-experimental study. And then observational is the thing that intervention today is finished, tomorrow post-test, where we go, and then we say goodbye to each other. Thank you very much. People are dispersing. That is observation, quasi-experimental studies. See? Yes. Yeah, so in quasi, we know that there are advantages, that we need to establish causal effect. You see? And then we need also to test the package is effective or not in our settings or in a certain given environment. But it has some limitations. Yeah, it's very difficult sometimes to establish as a researcher in your proposal. It's very difficult if you meet a category that you need to prescribe the indicators of outcome of interest. How do you know that this intervention package tallies with the knowledge or tallies with this variable self-efficacy? How do you know that? You see, so you need to sometimes it becomes very difficult. You can see that you can find that intervention is talking another language, and then the problem statement is talking another language. So if you are not keen enough to know the indicators and the outcomes of interest in your package, you'll be in a position to disturb the continuity of your proposal, and people will not know whether which aspect are you addressing and what exactly are you going to intervene. You see, sometimes it becomes very difficult to establish implementation fidelity. For instance, sometimes we are using research trainers to train participants because we need not to introduce our researchers' bias to the package of the intervention. So we are using them, we are training them, and then instruct them how to deliver the intervention, and then we let them go and intervene. So here is a very difficult position and a situation where you as a researcher, you need to address it in your proposal, writing it very clearly. How are you going to monitor them to know that whether they adhere to the intervention regime or they mix it with their prior knowledge? Because sometimes training is not enough. You are training for 2 days, but they are very hard to understand. See, they are getting difficulties to understand what you have trained them. So at some point, if they are alone in the class with the participants, they can even integrate their usual methodologies of delivering the materials. See, so it becomes very hard to know whether those research trainers are adhered to the intervention regime or not, because you are not fixing a CCTV camera in the rooms so that you are in the office monitoring. Are they following the steps or not? So to clear this one, to address this point, you need to sit down attentively and then prescribe the information describing how are you going to make sure that the intervention regime, those who are going to deliver the intervention, are going to follow attentively the intervention regime. You need to write it in the proposal so that at least you minimize doubt of the quasi-experimental study. Yeah, and then you are recommended also, because sometimes you can limit yourself having very few confounders. So you see, if we are having a section of social demographics, you are ending up with the demographics, no psychographics, no behavioral factors. You see, if you are excluding these two components, you are dealing only with the social demographic characteristics, mean that you are going to have very few components to control the intervention later during analysis. See, yeah. So you can see in the socio-demographic characteristics section in the questionnaire, you have only 7 characteristics, and then 7 characteristics to control the effect of the intervention is advised that they are not enough to discriminate the exact effect of the intervention. what you are recommended in your social demographic characteristics when you are talking of the variable measurements or definition of variables. Try as much as you can to include many factors. And then these factors should follow in three aspects. We have social demographic characteristics, where we talk of those biological characteristics, and then the social, be it education level, marital status, occupation, residency, social demographics. But we are recommended to add psychographics or psychographic factors. You see, yeah, experience of people. You see, add also behavioral, so that you need to accommodate. You see, if we are doing educational intervention, people will wonder if we are not including issues like exposure to media as one among the characteristics to be controlled if, to discriminate the effect of the intervention. Social engagement in social groups, drug abuse, travel, you see. Sort of this kind of characteristics need to be included so that you have a big bundle of characteristics of the participants for you later to control them, and they say that the only effect here is for the intervention because they've controlled the other several factors of these individuals. I say, yeah. And then the other challenge in quasi-experimental, we always forget the integration of the model theory to demonstrating the proposal in the methodology part. How is the model construct so components have been integrated in prescribing the intervention? We are forgetting that one totally, but we are recommended and we are advised to remember this one in writing your proposal in the section of methodology to clear this threat that in the methodology, for instance, I'm adapting the theory of Bandura, which is insisting social learning. And the one among the components is there is maybe motivation. Yeah, motivation. And then I should write in the methodology, yeah, in answering the question, where am I going to use this theory in my proposal in the methodology? And how now? See, I say, in order for me to motivate learners to concentrate in learning, to demonstrate interest in learning, I will provide they are going not to use their resources, learning resources. I will provide learning resources, for instance, notebooks, pens, whatever, which is part of the learning resources during my research. This is a kind of motivator to them because they see, oh, we are not going to use our resources, but the research package is having resources for us. So let's just join, see? So here it's a kind of demonstrating how did you integrate motivation component of the theory to the methodology. You see, so you need to be very keen. When you say it's very easy to demonstrate them in the conceptual framework, but how are you going to use them in the methodology? You need to state it by writing. How are you going to say that I have used the reproduction? You see, one among the components of the theory is reproduction. Now, how have you integrated this component in your research proposal or in your methodology? Okay. I've integrated this one in the prescription of the material that I've said after training or after each session, participant will be given an opportunity to demonstrate what they have learned. So if you give them opportunities where now people see, this is the reproduction. You teach and then you give them opportunity. Okay, this is the component of the theory. You see, it is visible. So it's a threat because most of us are forgetting to integrate or to show this in the research proposal, especially in the part of the methodology when you are opting interventional studies. See, and then sometimes the loss of participants, if it is correlated with the intervention. You see, if we are having lost to follow-up, we are always saying that people have lost to follow-up. But if you are told to give a reason, say they some of them said they are sick. Some of them is just self-denial after an intervention. But we are forgetting to interrogate them to extract is the intervention that affected them to decide that one, or is their own. issues. You see. So you need to be keen enough in your methodology, stating the planning to deal with the lost follow-up. You need to prescribe them before even you go there. See, so that you show the mechanism to promote adherence. It is called the mechanism to promote adherence to the intervention. You see, so you prescribe there. There will be this activity, this activity. See, yeah. So other issue is clarity. The intervention occurred before the outcome. It's very difficult sometimes. You can force yourself. I'm going to do an intervention, but the variables that you are going to assess or to measure, they have already occurred before even your intervention. And then if you come back and say, yeah, the intervention was effective, and then this is linked with the number of factors that you have included. If you are limited to the few factors, you will be in a threat over here, clarity. You will be in a position that you will be not able to establish the rationale that, or the validity of the findings, the effect of the intervention, that this effect is directly, significantly linked with the intervention. Sometimes it's very difficult. People, they will see that, yeah, there is knowledge change within your intervention, or it was even before. You can deal with the control and the intervention, and then after intervention, all they've gained knowledge. And then you are in a position that now, why, and this one have gained knowledge while they were in the control. What happened? And then now to defend that they gained also because of this factor, as compared to this one, you will forget sometimes. And then this brings a threat of applying or opting past experimental studies. Yeah, and then sometimes selection bias, we are forgetting to match study participants at baseline before even you engage them in the intervention. You can find yourself at baseline, you recruit them while they're different in social demographics. And then you are carrying them as they are with the differences. And then at the end, you are forgetting to control those differences. And then you're coming back saying that the intervention was effective. These queries brings queries. And then blinding, sometimes who is blinding? How is it done? And why is it done? It's not written in the proposal. So if you are not writing, you are writing it in the proposal, mean that you are bringing your readers in a dilemma and in a difficult situation to understand your research proposal. Yeah. And then sometimes we are facing a challenge of how should we define the maturation of the intervention? How do you know that I should start tomorrow and I should end next week? What informs you that one? You see, sometimes it's arbitrary. We as researchers, we decide them by ourselves. Yeah, I want 4 weeks. The intervention will be 4 weeks. What informed you to conduct the intervention for 4 weeks? You don't have rationales. And then this brings your quasi-experimental study to be in doubt. How did you know that you need to start today during the morning or during the evening? Why? And then you say because participants said that they will be available in that time. Is that a reason of starting the quasi-experimental or the intervention in that time? Or you are informed with the outcome or the interest of your study to start in the evening? Why do you think that you need to end it after 4 weeks and not 6 weeks? Why? Sometimes we say because the time frame of the study in my training institution is for 1 month. So I fixed myself to divide 1 month so that I get some days for intervention and some days for evaluation. This one is not valid. That's why we need to be keen enough when we opt interventional studies, because one of the issues is time. Time is very, very critical issue in interventional studies. But sometimes we find ourselves bringing out reasons that because of the time frame that we have been given an ethical permit from the training institution or our organization, it was very limited. That's why I opted to conduct intervention for 2 weeks. That is not. We need to find valid and reliable rationales. to prescribe the intervention, so that you know that if I implement it for 1 month, this will be a very matured intervention. And I will be in a position to say that it has brought some effect to the outcome of interest. See? Yeah. And then also to determine exposure. How do you know that if you prescribe the session for 2 hours, it will be adequate for the participant to grasp what you have intended to deliver, or to intended to them to get it. So it brings very difficult situations when it comes to questions. Yeah, you said one session was 2 hours. How did you know that it was an adequate exposure? You said that intervention was implemented for 2 weeks. How did you know that 2 weeks was an adequate exposure to the participant to grasp knowledge, to change attitude, and to change even behavioral skills? How did you know that? How sure were you that that was adequate exposure of the intervention? So this also becomes a very, very threat when it comes to interventional study in the aspect of quasi-experimental study. And then to address it, you need to prescribe in your research proposal, in the methodology, prescription of the intervention, based on previous studies recommendation, or education system of Tanzania, or whichever. This study will be prescribed, intervention will be last for this amount of time, this amount of days, see? And then the session will be maybe 2 hours. And then this is based on this fact, this fact, this fact. And then if you do like that one, you write it in the proposal, in the methodology, you are clearing this threat of the interventional study, quasi-experimental, see? So these are the issues that you need to consider when you opt interventional study, especially quasi-experiment. They have these issues to be considered critically. And then they need to be addressed by writing statements or prescriptions in the methodology section, the segment that where you write intervention. Is where now you prescribe all of the characteristics, all of the issues, and then bear in mind that you need to address these threats. See? Yes, so that is quasi-experimental. Yeah. Now we are ending up with the other study design, which is randomized controlled trial. You see? Yeah, this is a gold standard in intervention, and it is called gold standard and true intervention because it has all of the 3 characteristics: randomization, manipulation of the participant or independent variable or input factor, but also control group. Yeah, it becomes very rare and sometimes strange when you do randomized controlled trial and then you don't have a control group. People will wonder, see? So that's why it's in a higher rank when it comes to interventional study in the chronological flow study designs, see? So you randomize, you manipulate the input factor or participant and the objects and have a control group. Over time, but between groups. You see? So you have treatment and a control group. And then the treatment can be 2 or 3, 1, 2, or 3. Yeah. And then the control, only 1. See? Depends with the types of the randomized controlled trial. Yeah. So in the randomization, just as a it's where like you are in agriculture, you have a farmer, a farm, plants in it, maybe maize, and then the maize are being affected by insects. And then you want to test insecticides, variety of them. So you block, so you establish blocks. Yeah, and then you test the insecticides to see which one is killing the insects. Same. Block the randomization. We have stratified where you think of the participants' characteristics. Those with similar characteristics, you put them, you stratify them as one group. So blocked is regardless of the participants, is the blocks, the groups, you stratify the groups than a participant. And then stratified is you stratify participants. You see? Yeah, matched randomization is the name itself. Sometimes it's called case matched randomization. Yeah, so you compare each group. Yeah, if we have here adolescent, for instance, you are studying adolescents, 10 to 19 years. You see, so in between here we have three subgroups: early adolescent, middle adolescent, and then late adolescent. So you can match if you have early adolescent, two early adolescent in the control. You must also have two early adolescents in the intervention. So you match the characteristics of the participants. And the pairwise also, likewise, you pair. If you have an adult in the control, you need to have an adult in the control. You have an animal here, you need to have an animal here. See? And then we have minimization, randomization, which is typically not a random method uh, of forming a comparable groups. But what is done here? You have groups. For instance, you have three treatment arms: treatment A, treatment B, and treatment C. So you see, in treatment A, there are many participants than in treatment B and C. So what you do, the one in which the participant, the other participants who are coming to be recruited, you add the participants in the group where there are few. You see, so this is called minimization and randomization, and then it's in the randomized controlled trial, the types of randomization. See, yeah. And then you can do randomization, randomized controlled trial in a non-epidemiological aspect or epidemiological aspect. In the non-epidemiological aspects is those that we say is educational-wise. If you are giving educational intervention, but a randomized controlled trial means that this is not epidemiological. Yeah, it's non-epidemiological because you are not dealing with the diseases or you are not dealing with the drugs. It's just educating people, empowering people. See, and then there are those which more of epidemiology. Yeah, see, you are dealing with the issues of health-related problems. You see, you can deal with the risky and the causy, preventive, screening, diagnostic, randomized controlled trial. So you have risky or causy, randomized controlled trial, randomized controlled that are dealing with the causes of the problem, risk factors of the problem. And then you can do randomized controlled trial as a preventive randomized controlled trial. So you test something to prevent the occurrence of the epidemiology. But you can do a screening randomized controlled trial or diagnostic randomized controlled trial. And you can do also treatment where you test drugs, whichever. And then sometimes you can engage yourself in doing a rehabilitative randomized controlled trial, of which you are dealing with the people who have already been affected by the problem of interest. See, that is randomized. And then you can perform randomized controlled trial in a variety of designs or forms. See, you need to identify eligible population, and then from there, through your inclusion and exclusion criteria, you need to measure them at baseline as a group, the eligible group. And then from there is where you establish groups through randomization. You say this will be control, this is intervention, and then you give the intervention. And then later on, you assess whether where the problem has occurred or the effect has happened. You see, be it negative way or positive way, because we are devised to limit ourselves to say that I am going to test this on improving. You see, if you are using these action verbs which directs you in one direction, be it in a positive or negative, you are recommended not to be in that position. Be neutral, because the intervention will tell either it has increased or not. You see. Yeah, so it's a kind of form of conducting the controlled trial, randomized controlled trial. So we have types, as we had types in quasi experimental study. We have a randomized controlled trial for testing the efficacy of the packages, of which most of them are non-epidemiological, educational, you see. And then we have pragmatic or randomized controlled trial for testing the effectiveness of epidemiological issue or an object which is nowhere used is there. You want to test its effectiveness on the outcome of interest. But sometimes you can do pilot randomized controlled trial. So you spare the main randomized controlled study, and then you start with the pilot. So you conduct a pilot randomized controlled trial as an arm of the main randomized controlled trial. So you try it, and then you analyze the data separately in the package of pilot. And then if it is effective, you go now to the main randomized controlled trial. This one is called pilot randomized controlled trial. But we have parallel randomized controlled trial or parallel group design, where participants exposed only in one arm. So you have control intervention. So if interventions are two, mean that intervention group, intervention, and then they are all intervened parallel. You see? We have factorial randomized controlled trial, of which you can have two groups given intervention of interest and one control group. Yes, so you can have one control intervention group given this treatment A, another intervention group is given treatment B. So in factorial, you need to have another group which is going to be given treatment A and B, which is called the combined treatment group. So you have a single treatment group, another single treatment group, and then you have combined treatment group. And now the combined is called factorial. So you may have a kind of randomized controlled trial in a factorial design. See? And then you have crossover randomized controlled trial, of which you have, for instance, intervention A, intervention B, and we have control. So those who have been exposed to treatment A will then later, in the same time frame of the study, be given or be exposed to the treatment B. So it's a kind of exchanging. If we were treated with the treatment A, and then next you will be treated with the treatment B that was in the other group. And then the other group, which was in treatment B, they're also given treatment A. This is crossover randomized controlled trial. But also we have a Zelens randomized controlled trial. So here it's a kind of corporal randomized controlled trial because participants they are randomized even before they are giving consent, before informed consent. You randomize them before they give you informed consent, you see? And then the control is blinded. The only control is blinded. By those who are randomized before even informed consent are given information that you are in the trial. But only the control group is blinded, whether they are not or they are in the trial. See? This is called Zelens. They are not commonly used in randomized controlled trial. But for the sake of understanding, we need to share this basic knowledge. And then we have a comprehensive cohort. Comprehensive cohort participants themselves show preferences of where they want to engage in which group. So if they prefer treatment A, you allow them to join treatment A. And then you are not randomizing them because it's basing on their preferences. So you treat them as per their preference. You need treatment A, yes. So go there. You don't need randomization. So this is called the comprehensive cohort. And then we have Wenberg's randomized design. So you allow participants to choose which intervention group do they prefer. So if I prefer treatment A, I go to treatment A. If I tell you I want to go to the control, you send me to the control, you see? So all of these types of randomized controlled trial have limitations. And then for the sake of time, because I've tried to condense them so that I am able to share at least basic knowledge of what is there in the course and what is there in the randomized controlled trial. But we have books and we are also alive. We are living the University of Dodoma. We can meet physically or through media or email. And then we can talk more and share more detailed information about the types and randomized controlled trial. Yeah. So program itself, the process is having 3 steps or stages. If we were conducting randomized controlled trial, whichever the type, whichever the mode or form of randomization, you have to demonstrate in your proposal the planning or designing stage of the randomized controlled trial. In your proposal, it should be very clearly stated there. You see? And then you show in the planning phase what was your main question that led you to opt randomized controlled trial. Which trial design have you opted based on your input factor and outcome of interest, but also study population? Implementation, pre-implementation planning. How is it? Where is it? It need to be prescribed in the proposal, in the methodology section. And then second phase or stage is implementation. So where now we find step 4, 5, and 6. And then you need to prescribe them in the proposal methodology section. How are you going to recruit? The recruitment procedures, blinding, concealment, sequencing. All of these are going to be prescribed in the document. If you prescribe them clearly, mean that your document will be perfect, at least for your readers to understand this is randomized controlled trial, or this is a quasi experimental study. And then randomization is, as we said, but also outcome based on the data collection. You see? And then stage 3, you need to prescribe clearly the analysis plan and how are you going to report the data. So this is a flow, at least to give you a basic understanding of how can you prescribe the information about the randomized controlled trial in your proposal. Otherwise, you will be as usual that, I've been told to do randomized controlled trial as the best study design, and then I've prescribed it. And then if someone reads the package, no elements of randomized controlled trial. A lot of issues are missing there. And then if we find which measurement tool did you use to guide you prescribing these all issues that we are talking here, you have never mentioned any measurement tool in your proposal. Mean that here you are doing randomized controlled trial as a routine, not informed by science, research, science. See? So we are sharing all of these basics in order for you to improve your proposal. And if you have gone to research and you are back writing a report or writing dissertation, whichever, you need to go back to the methodology. And then if you opted quasi experimental, be it uncontrolled or controlled, go back there. And then at least fish more information, feed more content as we have shared here, so that you are able to say that, yes, I did quasi experimental study, but 1 group or 2 group, or I did also randomized controlled trial. Show the measurement tool also. I used Strobe if we were doing observational study. But also I tried to use some contents from the consort form or spirit if we are doing randomized controlled trial. See? Yes. So threats in quasi experimental process, they are similar of what we said in the quasi experimental. They are also having the same threats, and then these all threats need also to be addressed as we talked and we shared when we talk of the quasi experimental study. You see. So the only thing in randomized controlled trial, it must be registered by national organization of research and the international organization. And then if we say National Organization of Research in Tanzania, for instance, we are talking of NIMRI, you see. And then international, you can talk of Pan-Africa. So you need to have 2 registration numbers if we are doing randomized controlled trial. You need to register it in your nation based on the nation organization which has been approved to register randomized controlled trial. But you need to find international organization that registers randomized controlled trial and your country is included in that organization. You need to follow the link and then register your randomized controlled trial. And then this should be done before even you go to data collection, before even you defend your proposal. You see, it's a preliminary stage of your randomized controlled trial. For Kwasi, they are my friends. So no need of registering, you see, because we are missing one of the component, which is randomization, you see. So we are sometimes in the arm of observation. Yeah, we can use the strobe measurement tool and sometimes adopt some components in the constant form or spirit form. See. So that is very important for randomized controlled trial registration. And then sometimes you can see if you visit international organization, you submit today, tomorrow they give you a registration number. Giving you a registration number at early stage, it doesn't mean that you are randomized or your document is perfect with the randomized controlled elements. No. Sometimes international organization, they are having scanty, they are having limited number of randomized controlled trials that have been registered in their organization. You see, so they at preliminary stages they take any randomized controlled trial that is submitted to their organization. And then this one should not guarantee you that, yes, it has passed to this international organization. Now, this is a pure randomized control. No. Sometimes, if they reach a threshold, now they have a huge band of randomized controlled trial. It's when they will start screening the RCT that are submitted in their organization. So you should not proud yourself at this level because some organizations are not full enough to screen typically the RCT. See, yeah. So that is RCT, and then to end up the session, this is a framework that also we shared last session for you to guide you on how really are you opting the right study for study design or study arm, be it intervention or observation. See, so by this remark, this makes the end of our session today. Yeah, welcome for discussion, sharing experience, because maybe some of you are back from data collection, writing their dissertation or writing their thesis, sharing whichever you have. So I submit and welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Walter, for a wonderful presentation. I welcome the floor for questions and comments. So if you have a question or a comment, you can raise your hand, or you can start speaking now, because you can unmute yourself and ask your comment. I would recommend you introduce yourself, because some names here are not device names, so you won't actually know who is speaking. So welcome. Okay, there is one. There's one comment from Godrich Johnson. He's saying this was a worthy having time into. He's telling you to expect his correction. So I think he will contact you offline. Thank you, Godrich. Do we have any question or comment? Okay, we have another comment from Kambona Mwasaka. He's saying, thank you. Your presentation has always been unique from ever. The material I read before. Your presentation has always been unique from ever. The material I read before. Thank you. So this is from Kambona Mwasaka to you, Dr. Walter.
Yeah, thank you, Kambona.
Okay, so I don't think if there is any further comment because participants are quiet, so it means that they have understood well, or they are going to contact you offline for further discussions, as you have suggested in some of your slides. You have suggested that they can contact you for further discussions.
Yeah, my take-home message. First, I appreciate the presence of all of the participants that have willingly joined us and at least listen to what we have prepared to share with them. I think it's going to be constructive to them, and then build something to what they have. Yeah, the take-home message when we talk of interventional studies, make sure that you should not engage in an interventional study before first finding the measurement tool of the study. And then this is also to the observational studies. If you are doing cross-section, you are doing case control, you are doing case series, whichever the study design, we have measurement tools. And then these measurement tools, you must have them as hard copy or sometimes soft copy in your computer or in your mobile phone. They demonstrate guides. If we're doing cross-section, which components should you consider, and how should you address them, and where should they be indicated in your research proposal or in your research reporting? And that's why I said, if we have gone to data collection and you are back, you are writing the study thesis or dissertation, you can strengthen them. Find the measurement tool, as I demonstrated them in the first slide or second slide, I think. Strobe for observational, and maybe Spirit is consort for intervention study, especially randomized controlled trial. So that is the first one. Make sure that you have a measurement tool as you are writing your proposal. It will help you to guide the international, prescribing the international language, research language in your proposal, so that if it's read by an individual from Kenya, from Malawi, from United States, have common understanding of the research language. See? And then the second issue is all of the study designs are bound by time. So no excuse that I've done this one within 1 week because of the institutional ethical permit. So make sure that we have enough time to establish and then to do or to conduct the research. And then for the interventional study, critical issue is time and the other elements. So that make sure that you have enough time to conduct interventional studies, be it randomized controlled trial or experimental study. So we need to be keen enough. That is my take-home message by adhering to the measurement tools, internal measurement tools, but also internal meaning that national measurement tool, which are more of institutional based measurement tool. We talk of guideline of the institution, postgraduate guideline, undergraduate guideline. But we also think of international measurement tool. It's where we talk of Strobe, whichever the tool that we've mentioned in the third slide of this presentation, I think. So that's all that I could remind the participants and the others as a take-home message. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walter, for your continuous support and your volunteering spirit, for always being there during our sessions. So I personally thank you so much, and looking forward to your presentations in the future. So thank
Yeah.
you all, and this marks the end of our today's session. We will notify you on the next session.
I think Pendo has raised their hand. Yeah, I can see someone Pendo.